It was a time when the business was sort of grappling with all of the disruption and how did you balance not losing the stable revenue that came from the distributors, from the affiliate business, to how do you take a look at what's going on with Netflix. They're all going direct to consumer. All these consumers are just liking this sort of ad-free, on-demand, app-centered experience. That's the time that I was there, and my focus was really on supporting the business with digital innovation, building out the TVE apps, the mobile app, the Amazon Fire TV app, etc. Working on building community on social media, working on monetizing our IP, cable IP, through digital platforms. That was my focus. It was an innovation-led job in a very traditional business.
In this episode, I'm talking to Karina Kogan, Fractional CMO of P.volve. Karina was formerly the CMO of Aura and Peloton and advised 9-figure companies like Jackpot.com. We'll talk about her philosophies about marketing. We'll talk about her favorite marketing channels today. Is it SEM, partnership, affiliate marketing? And one of her favorite topics, why culture eats strategy for breakfast. We'll also try to figure out how much money she makes as a fractional CMO versus an in-house CMO. And is this whole fractional CMO trend a fad or the future? And if she can't answer a question, we both had to take a shot of hot sauce. Wish me luck, Martians. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hello, Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we have a very, very special guest. She is currently the CMO of P.volve, or P.volve. We're going to hear about everything about that company. But prior to P.volve, she also was an ex-senior marketer or CMO and also advisor at companies like Aura, Peloton, Warner Media, and she was named as Adweek Women Trailblazer, Business Insider CMO to watch. She's also a mom, and she's very active in her life in terms of fitness and health. We're gonna learn everything about Karina, but what surprises me the most, despite all of her success, is she's super humble. And she still works very, very hard. Last time we hopped on a call, she was working on an 11-hour day. So it's super cool. I think we're going to get a lot of value out of Karina. Karina, thank you so much for joining the show.
Oh my God, thanks for having me and the warm welcome and kind words. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, don't get too excited too early because we're going to do a couple of these in a few seconds. What do you have?
I have some. I'm really scared. Oh, my kid made me grab this insanity sauce. I'm not going to try. I'm not, just so you're aware, I'm not going to try this. This is insanity sauce. A kid came over to our house and tried it and he went home with a stomach ache. So I'm not going to be having that. But I have some habanero. I have some other things. I have some habanero. I have the just classic Cholula because I'm a weakling.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So.
Okay, maybe we'll start with that. But Karina, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Maybe just to start off the show, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, your background, and how all of this happened. You're currently at P.volve, but you worked at a variety of different companies before that.
Yeah, how this happened. Let's see. Well, I'm an immigrant. I was born actually in Odessa, Ukraine, and we immigrated to the States when I was 3. And I, like all, not all, but like many Eastern European kids, your parents tell you that you could really only be 2 things, a doctor or a lawyer. And I didn't even know marketing was a career, until I after graduated college, even it was that late in life that, but I luckily I moved to San Francisco in 1998 when the .com boom was starting, and I just happened to land in a really magical environment where a particular industry was booming and there were jobs for young people with no experience. So that's how I ended up. That was the birthplace of my career was San Francisco in 98,
And at that time you were an account manager. You were in sales, right?
No, I started my career in marketing, and I did eventually move into business development where I was on the account side caring for clients with sort of large integrated deals. It wasn't as transactional as sort of straight up sales. I did also work in-house at an agency, where I was a buyer and planner partnered with sales organization. But so yeah, I've been on the buy side, on the sell side, throughout my career. And I think I like the buy side better. It's more fun to buy stuff than sell stuff for me personally, not to, we need the salespeople in our lives too. Yeah.
You also have more, I guess you have more power. Buyers, you typically has more power. That buying is just more fun, right? So
yeah, I mean, I guess it also depends on the sort of supply demand situation. I mean, like if there's a little supply, I suppose you have less power. If there's a lot of demand and little supply, but in either case, it is more fun, in my opinion, to buy because I'm a marketer. But yeah,
yeah. And then you kind of your career kind of progressed from there, from agency, and then you moved over in 2017 to Warner Media. Tell us about your time there.
Yeah, Warner was. I'll tell you, actually, the time that I was there, I was in the Los Angeles office. The culture there was absolutely incredible. I actually had a really, really fun time at Warner. There was just like the creatives were amazing, the folks in programming, the folks in marketing. Warner also, at the time, it was still Turner. Before I worked there before and shortly after the acquisition by AT&T. So when I was there, it was still Turner Broadcasting, and then I was there during part of the rebrand. But anyway, the Turner part of the business also had its headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. And Atlanta, I don't know if you've been there, is a really special place. And the community on that campus in Atlanta was incredible. A lot of people had, at Turner had in particularly the team in Atlanta had worked there for years and years. Nobody wanted to leave because it was such a special place to work. And then the Cartoon Network building was there, and that was really fun because the Adult Swim people were super cool. So, but the time that I was there was also a really disruptive time because Netflix was really well past taking off and eating everybody's lunch.
Right.
Most other traditional entertainment, especially the cable brands like Disney, HBO, were not yet streaming. And a lot of consumers were cutting the cord, right? We just started talking about cord cutters, cord nevers, people who were never, not just not cutting, but never subscribing. And it was a time when the business was sort of grappling with all of the disruption and how do you balance not losing the stable revenue that came from, from the distributors, from the affiliate business, to how do you take a look at what's going on with Netflix? They're all going direct to consumer, and all these consumers are just liking this sort of ad-free, on-demand, app-centered experience. So that's the time that I was there, and my focus was really on supporting the business with digital innovation, building out the TVE apps, so the mobile app, the Amazon Fire TV app, etc. Working on building community on social media, working on monetizing our IP, our cable IP, through digital platforms. That was my focus. So it was an innovation-led job in a very traditional business.
Yeah, that's tough, right? A lot of things have to change. Okay, so excited to dive into your background and talk about everything that we're going to touch upon a lot of different things. But first, before we start the show, there's a little tradition on the show. We're doing a little shot of a hot sauce.
Okay, with respect to the shot,
yeah,
I have some chips.
Oh, you can definitely dip.
Chips. Sorry for the crackling noise, but I am a wuss when it comes to spice. And I'm not gonna lie, Simon, I almost was like, maybe I shouldn't do this podcast.
We'll be nice. We'll be nice with the questions. We also have some listeners on LinkedIn. If you guys want to ask any tough questions to Karina, feel free. It won't be my fault. It'll be the listener's fault. But we got Karina for a little while, so
here's my hot sauce. Okay. My water. What are you drinking?
I don't know, but it's always painful. Oh, I'm drinking like a Korean. Uh, oh my God.
Are you gonna start like undressing soon? Because I'm sweating probably.
Are we allowed to do that on LinkedIn?
No, I but you know, LinkedIn and my
Oh my God.
bacon hot sauce show.
Oh, that's spicy. Okay, you're currently at a new company though,
Yeah.
P.volve. Are we allowed to talk about P.volve or?
Yeah, so I just joined the company as a fractional CMO and advisor, and I love this brand. I love everything they're doing. I love their approach to fitness, and yeah, I'd love to talk about them.
Okay, tell us about P.volve. What do they do?
So P.volve is a really innovative functional fitness method. And what P.volve does is it pairs functional fitness or functional movement with resistance-based equipment to help you build strength, mobility, stability, muscle tone, all the things you want. It's a low impact method. So for someone like me, who I know I look like I'm 25, but I'm not.
You look young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just told you I started my career in 98. People do the math, but it is a method that gives you results without thrashing your body. And the equipment is incredible. It's a few of the pieces are patented. I'm sorry, the sound went off, but you know, they have something called the P.volve, which is this ball with the strap, and you use it to do resistance-based movements around your legs. You could also use it for upper body, but I mean, it's amazing what it does for your glutes, for your thighs, for your pelvic floor. There's a lot of core workouts. And I think P.volve also is really special in that it really super serves women. You know, there's a lot of special programs for cycle syncing for women who are looking to get pregnant, who are postpartum. So there's also some specialized programming that's based around women's health. So it's incredible. I've started to do it, and it's replaced everything else that I used to do.
Wow. 100 plus employees as well. It's not a small.
No, it is small. It is smaller. It is closer to the 100. It is a small company growing, and you know, I'm gonna take off. I promise you. You're gonna be getting a P-ball pretty soon. So.
Please. Okay.
Working your pelvic floor.
That's what I need. Okay. So, typically we have a lot of questions geared around the company that you're at, P.volve. Because you just started up, is it okay? Is it free game to ask these tough questions about P.volve, or should we focus more on the past companies? What do you think?
Yeah, let's go. I would prefer to, you know, give me a minute. I'll be back to talk about P.volve. As I mentioned to you, that it's also, we have a lot coming soon. So I'd love to hold and share that news with you when we're ready.
Okay. For anyone curious, just search up Karina's LinkedIn. P.volve is right there on the top of her LinkedIn. You can check it out and learn more about it. But for today, we're going to stay off of P.volve for now. So, all right, Karina, you worked at so many different companies, variety of different companies, from a lot of fitness recently, Aura, and then Peloton. What are your thoughts on just overall? Maybe we'll focus on the health space. What are your thoughts on what it takes to succeed in marketing in that kind of fitness / health space? What are your keys to success there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one key, whether you're in health, fitness, or something else, whatever, with the CPGs and food and beverage, but I think it's especially true in categories that touch health, which is the product better be good. And I know that's not a marketing statement, but I think if you don't have a good product, especially when you are talking about something that promises people an improved health outcome, certainly you don't want to serve people something that isn't going to help them. But ultimately, if your mission is to improve people's lives and improve people's health, you have to have an incredible product. Health, also wellness, health in particular happens to be a regulated category, fitness, not so much. But being able to from a marketing perspective, being able to navigate what you can say is also just like happens to be something you have to consider. For example, Aura is a company that does a ton of research, has a lot of great case studies and data. Lots of doctors love talking about Aura. So, but you always have to balance that with, there's only certain things you can say, right? There's only certain claims you can make, particularly when you're in a regulated category. So that's just one watch out for marketers in the space. But overall, I think the space is so exciting. It is honestly, I've talked about this before, but even before COVID, we as a society culture, we're making this shift from a focus on sick care to self-care, from sick care to preventative care, right, to wellness. People, we're already thinking about, I don't want to just go to the doctor when I'm sick. I want to not get sick. I want to feel good every day. I care about longevity. I care about immunity. I care about, kind of feeling good in my body and not just going to the doctor when I get sick. And that certainly was the case pre-COVID. I think COVID really was sort of an accelerant to that.
Even more, yeah.
Right? Because all of a sudden we were all talking about immunity and comorbidities and, we all really didn't want to get sick, right? And so I think that because of that, because of this incredible cultural shift and this sort of and the technology has gotten so good, right? We went from before you used to just Google stuff and you'd go to WebMD and you'd be your own little digital doctor. Now you have all these devices and they could actually, you're not just Googling your symptoms, you could actually know what's going on in your body because you have all these trackers. The innovation is so incredible because of technology that the sky's the limit. I think it's an incredibly exciting time to be in product development or marketing in the health and wellness space.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, totally. Going back to your point, having a good product and just, kind of being careful what you say in the health industry. Obviously, those are two very, very important key points. As you were talking, I couldn't help. I was kind of doing math in my head, trying to guess, because you started your career in 1990 something. I was trying to do my math, but regardless of what number I came out with, you look very good for your age.
Thanks.
I don't know your exact age. I'm not going to ask because that's going to be a hot sauce question.
Yeah.
What do you do? What is your to other CMOs or CXOs that are listening? They're like, how the heck? What is your regimen right now? What do you?
I just focus on everything from the waist up because you never see the bottom. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, stand up, Karina.
Yeah, I'm both wearing pants and I also care about the whole thing. I am. Look, I throughout my many women, I will tell you, throughout my life I had a very kind of love-hate relationship with my body, with fitness, with how to stay in shape, with how to not try and stop the clock on aging and things like that. And everybody has something that works for them. For me, the thing that I love, I loved about Peloton, I love about P.volve, because I used to love to run. I loved running, but now running is just really hard for me to be honest with you. First of all, because when it's cold out, I don't want to run. So there's just a very practical nature of that. I used to live in California. It was a lot easier to run throughout the year. But, it just starts to get harder on your knees, on your, it starts to feel like a workout that P.volve talks about building your body up and not breaking your body down. There's certain workouts that I used to do when I was younger that really felt like they would break my body down. I remember throwing up after Barry's boot camp once in my car.
What is that?
Barry's, it's a boot camp, fitness. But so I used to try and, I felt
all kind of
the harder I worked, the harder it was, the more it hurt. I thought the better it would be for me. And now as I get older, you're asking what I do. I've started to realize that that's not the way to treat your body. And so I do workouts. Like like I said, I do P.volve. I still do use my Peloton for cardio. And I like body weight classes. I like classes, and I love the resistance based stuff because it's stuff that builds muscle without the feeling of like, could I get injured? Is this going to hurt me? Am I going to break something in the process? And that I really love. And also for older women, you do need to, the older you get, the more weight training becomes important because you lose muscle mass.
Yeah, no, that's and okay. So your work. Last time we spoke, you're working quite a bit still.
Yeah.
What is your working routine? I'm sure you have like a workout routine. Like, how many days are you working out now?
Like, it could go from 3 to 5, and some weeks I'm like, I don't want to do this at all, and I just sit.
Okay. And then what about your work routine? Because
I work
when you're working at Aura, your whole team was distributed. Everyone was remote, and so you were telling me you had to start your day at like 8 a.m. and then go until 7 p.m. some days because of
I mean, I think that's the case for all of us. Whether or not your workforce is distributed. The one of the lovely things about Aura is that it is a global company with offices in Finland. And for that reason, I think there's a very special multicultural element to the company. And that connection to Europe is really lovely. But on the flip side, because when you do have a very distributed workforce and everybody's in a different time zone, you end up with meetings at all hours of the day and night. But even now that since I've left the company and I've started advising and become fractional CMO at P.volve and started my own consultancy, and I'm now like I'm working with lots and lots of different companies all over the world. Again, I'm just like, sometimes I'm on at 7 in the morning, and sometimes I go till whatever at night. But it's fun. I love my career. I love what I do. When you love what you do, it's easy, right? To take time to do it.
Are you solo right now because you're working with multiple different companies? Are you by yourself, or do you have like a small team that supports you?
No, it's just, I embed myself with other teams.
You embed yourself.
But right now, I mean, I do a lot of independent work. I don't know. There's a lot of incredible, by the way, the Wall Street Journal is doing a ton of coverage on this. If your audience is interested, there is a generally a big trend towards fractional executive work. The Wall Street Journal actually just did a piece on it this week or last week. But there's a lot of coverage on this trend in work, particularly among executives, to go fractional. It's a really fascinating opportunity for both for the executive and the company, for a lot of reasons. One is for a lot of young startups, a lot of companies that are, whether they're in the seed round, Series A, Series B, Series C, or whatever, smaller, and it creates an opportunity to bring in someone with a ton of experience,
right,
who's done it a lot, who has a playbook, who has all the knowledge, who has, who's kind of just comes with a whole toolbox. But someone like that might cost just a lot more. Like if someone like that who's in a publicly traded company is just earning a different type of salary. And so there is a benefit to a lot of startups to embrace fractional folks or advisors. And you're seeing a lot of that. And it's incredible for on the other end, for the advisor, the fractional person, because they get to learn too. They get to like partner with these
What flexibility?
There's flexibility, of course, and the work-life balance is a component of it. But it is also just such a gift to be able to partner with like founders who are building things and breaking things and open, right? They're not so far along in their maturity as a business where everything's just kind of already set in stone, and there's just such an openness to collaborate and to learn from each other. So I think for a lot of reasons, it's a really fun
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you know what's coming up. This is going to be hot sauce question number 1.
Yeah.
How much does Karina make as a full-time CMO versus a fractional CMO? Is there a difference in pricing?
I will actually, I don't know if I'm gonna have to take hot sauce based on the way I'm about to answer your question. You can.
We'll see.
There is different types of income. When you work, obviously in-house as a full-time employee, typically, especially if you're working at a company that's not publicly traded, you're usually like a startup, right? You're usually making a salary, a bonus, and you get stock options. If you're working at a publicly traded company, they often give you RSUs or some grants. There's also stock compensation, but they usually have higher salaries, right? Because there's right. There's less upside, but there's more stability. When you are fractional, and every fractional person probably does it differently, you get to decide, if you're working with a company that doesn't have a lot of cash to burn, maybe they're incentivizing you with only options. Yeah. Maybe those are worth nothing today, but it's 2 years from now, it could be worth millions, in which case you won, right? So but is somebody paying your benefits? No. Are you getting a bonus? Probably not, unless you negotiated so it's less stable. There's certainly more risk to it. And you have more cost, right? Because nobody's paying your health insurance. Let me tell you, health insurance is really expensive. Why? Nobody's got to fix that. But,
all right.
So I don't know. Is that a hot? So do I have to drink hot?
Okay. I think that means you got to take a hot sauce shot.
Okay. I will do the habanero one this time. I'm guessing you're gonna do something less spicy than the Korean.
No, I'm gonna do the same. I'm just gonna do less. I don't know why I always pour so much.
Okay, this came out with literally a chunk of pepper.
Perfect.
It's like a chunky one.
If you can vomit on screen, we'll get like a minimum 20,000 views.
Yeah, it'll be instead of vomiting from working out, I'll vomit from eating hot sauce. Oh, it's already hot. I didn't swallow it. Oh my god, that one is also incredibly sour.
Oh really? Sour and spicy. That sounds like a horrible combo.
It has like vinegar in it or something.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you're making a lot as a fractional CMO.
I don't really am making a lot. I'm making what makes me happy.
Good answer.
I'm balancing my what stimulates me intellectually. I'm taking on problems that I want to solve, and I'm balancing that with my income. Let's just put it that way.
How many as a fractional, let's say people are listening and like, oh, I want to do this fractional CMO thing, or like, I want to give this a shot. How many clients can a single fractional CMO or not, rather than clients or companies, can they partner up with? I imagine it's like limited because you only have one brain. There's only one Karina.
I honestly think it depends on the person, and I always plan whenever I work with a company, I always plan to over deliver. So I would never take on more than I know. I take such pride in my work. I also, as a marketer, am in the business of talking about the companies that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I want every company to put out the best possible work to succeed. I just take a tremendous amount of pride in the projects, and I don't take anything. I think you asked me what does it take to be in health and wellness? And I said, the thing it takes to be in anything is to have a good product. So right. I also choose projects based on, is this a good product? Can I, is this something that's going to make people happy? Is this a product people are going to use? And so for that reason, it is really important to me. It's less important to me to have like a lot of clients and to book and have every hour of my day filled. And it's more important for me to win, to succeed, to take whatever project I take on. I just want to know that we're going to like hit a lot of home runs, So I don't know if that answers your question, but like, I know I have friends who will, do 3, 4 at a time.
Wow.
I'm not sure that I could. Yeah.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
You also have a reputation to uphold as well, right? You've been at companies like Warner Media, Peloton, Aura, now P.volve. That was a big step for you to take on another company, to put onto your resume or LinkedIn or whatever you want to call it. But so it kind of goes both ways too, right? So
yeah.
So going back, like you worked at startups,
yeah,
worked at big companies,
yeah,
large companies. What are your thoughts now that, I'm assuming your answer is going to be something like, as time goes on and maybe things change, but where do you stand right now? Do you like working at startups more or bigger companies?
For me, it's less about the size or stage of the company, although I do love startups. I really do. And I love working with founders. I like founder-led companies where where there's a little bit more of like a personal connection or personal story. There's a why that's just more fiery often in founder-led companies. That is something I just absolutely relish. But for me, often it's less about stage and more about how hungry is this organization? Is it an organization where we're just going to like get into neutral mode and we really just, or is there like, is there something transformational? Is there change? Are we just, people talk about disruption. I know it's like an old cheesy word now, but like truly like, are we working on something new, different? That is what I chase. I chase the change, the impact, the transformation, the like,
Yeah.
what's new?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way. I mean, Peloton was pretty transformational. Aura, right? Pretty transformational. And now P.volve. So you like the health space, and health is such a huge space right now. It's growing very fast.
Oh, the industry is massive. The TAM on every subcategory within health, whether it's healthcare and telemedicine, whether it's sleep as a category, nutrition, right? Food is a big component. That's a nutritional sleep. I think McKinsey had identified sort of 8 subcategories within sleep, and all of them are combined to make $1 trillion industry. So it's a really massive industry and growing. Again, we talked about, how much we've changed and embraced different aspects of health versus just sick care as consumers. So yeah, so to me, the change component is critical. As a marketer, like I also have to tell you the DNA typically of a marketer, we like to launch stuff. Like, yeah. Right? Like, we like to launch stuff, but like to talk about new stuff. We like to like put stuff in the world all the time. And so that's just like, that's what I love. That's the adrenaline, right? That's my hot sauce.
It's your hot sauce. But okay, but marketing with a seed, pre-seed company versus a seed company versus a Series A, marketing changes so much. Talk like you've worked at various companies from various stages. What is your favorite as a marketer, as a CMO? Talk to us about other things that you like in different stages, or like the challenges. I'll let you take it wherever you want.
I think obviously one of the big differences for a marketing team or a marketing leader, whether you're inside of a seed versus Series C versus publicly traded company with 100,000 employees, is the size of your budget. One of the most obvious differences, right? We talked about like buy stuff in marketing. I treat every dollar that gets precious. I know that sounds crazy, but whether I have $100 million or $1 million to spend, like it's a dollar that's precious. So Now, granted, there's a lot more room for error when you have more money, but you could also argue there's a lot less room for error when you're more visible, right? Everybody notices when you make mistakes if you're Microsoft versus if you're somebody nobody's ever heard of. So,
Right.
I think there's points you can put in each camp. The thing that's exciting about those early stage companies is you can really mold and shape a brand from scratch, right? You could really craft the story, the narrative, and you get to
like P.volve versus like Peloton, for example.
right, 100%, and you get to be very close to your customer, right? Like young small companies just are really up in the customer's face because that feedback is so precious. Each customer is a gift. When you're just starting out, you got 1, now you got 2, now you got 5, you got 10, right? Each of those customers is so precious. And those relationships and how much you treasure those relationships and that excitement, like the ringing, the metaphor of like every time you get a customer, every time you make a sale, you ring a bell, right? That feeling inside of a small company is like, I love that. At the same time, when you're in a bigger company, and again, you have bigger budgets, and you get to try crazy stuff more, maybe, if the organization will let you, but the risk there, of course, is, what if you do reputational damage, if you mess up, you're gonna get
What's been some of your most memorable campaigns in the last, call it, year or two, that you're like, proud of it, or you just remember it the most?
Yeah. Well, so many. Well, one campaign that I had just so much fun working on is when I was at Aura. We did a collaboration with Gucci, and I was like,
Yeah.
you guys don't want to, like, we're this little Silicon Valley tech company that makes this ring, and and whatever. And we had this collab with Gucci, where we made a custom Gucci inspired Aura ring, which Gucci sold. That was really, really fun. I also, when I was at Peloton, this isn't that recent, it's a few years ago, but my first TV campaign at Peloton for Peloton Digital has a special place in my heart. I remember losing sleep over which song we chose for the spot. I was so nervous. I just wanted to do a good job so badly. We went back and forth on the music on that spot so much, but that had a decent production budget, and I just poured my heart into that spot. I did, just maybe because it was my first campaign at Peloton, that it has that, and then you would watch it, you'd be like, why do that commercial just looks like every other brand? You might not see it, but for me, I sweat it pretty hard.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was also your first role in the health space, right? Because you were at Warner before that. How'd you get in touch with Peloton? Like, how did that transition even happen?
Well, I used to be the head of marketing at Evite, and later at City Search. I worked inside of IEC, and the founder and former CEO John Foley of Peloton was my boss.
Wow.
So he and I knew each other and stayed in touch and become friends for like 20 years. So that's, but the way it all happened was, because when I was at Warner, I was building out all of their streaming applications. They weren't direct to consumer. They were television authenticated, what we call TVE, right? Where you used your Spectrum or DirecTV credentials to authenticate. But all of those apps were built by my team. And at the time, Peloton was looking to expand its digital offering. At the time, it only had an iOS and Android app, but it was looking to, and so I had a ton of relevant experience actually to some of the areas that Peloton was looking to invest in. And that's how I ended up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Want to talk to you about switch gears, dive a little bit deeper into marketing, because this is a marketing podcast. One of the things that we're hearing a lot, and I think you and I talked about this last time, paid ads it just seems like everyone is cutting budget or eliminating paid ads. I'm talking about SEM. I'm talking about paid social. You have experience with Aura, Peloton, and now P.volve. You see all the budgets. What are your thoughts on what's happening in the paid ad space?
I'm not. I mean, I think some correction was imminent of like this growth at all costs, just grow, grow, grow. Don't worry about unit economics. Don't worry about profitability. Just double top line year on year. Obviously, investor sentiment has changed and there's more attention being paid to just profitability, like, and I think that's good and right. And I think that's certainly what investors asking for that is right. And so I think it's more about discipline, having more discipline to how you spend than it is really just cutting for cutting's sake. It's forcing, I think, some organizations to just think about what's truly going to drive profit for their company, not just what's going to drive growth. And that, I think, is a very fruitful, I think that's a good exercise. I think that's wise. Now, that said, I think sometimes we tend to hear efficiency, performance marketing, we hear those terms and we think that means that all we're going to do is like meta and PPC kind of stuff. And I encourage brands not to forget that a customer who hasn't heard of you can't buy from you. And don't forget about awareness building. Your retargeting pool can be 10 people. And so that's it. That's your funnel is 10 people. And awareness is more expensive to get. It's more expensive to buy, to build. Now, there's lots of scrappy, I don't even call them scrappy. There's lots of strategic ways to build awareness that can add a lot of efficiency to your marketing mix. Partnerships, great example.
Partnerships.
PR, great example. Community building, right? Like
podcasting,
100%. This is good. Podcasting I would consider like part of the earned, PR. Media. So I would not forget or undervalue those components of your marketing mix to add a lot of efficiency to the machine. But I think, I've definitely had a lot of conversations with executives who are like, well, why don't we just, the CAC on Meta is, $10 and the CAC on TV is $100. And my answer is, well, guess what? The TV spot is what got you the $10 CAC on Facebook. Had we not run the TV spot, you would have had $100 CAC on Facebook.
It's hard. I get it. It's so hard sometimes. People get so caught up with the CAC and ROI, and it's just hard to measure sometimes brand awareness and how that one TV spot helped your CAC go from 15 to 10.
Yeah.
How do you get around this when brand awareness is difficult to measure? How do you get around that and convince non-marketers to listen?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are ways that you can test. You can, do testing in particular markets where you're on in one market and you're off everywhere else, and then you see what's the difference between that market versus everywhere else. There's you can pulse your media. I mean, there's lots of ways you can run. You could do research. There's lots of ways to test the efficacy of your media, to improve how you measure attribution, all of that. Now, is it cheap to do all those things? Is it easy to, like, the skills required to do all those things are actually like very nuanced. Mm-hmm. And it's super hard and so I don't, it's the hardest part of the job actually is that. But again, I think I am like, I love to measure everything. Like if anyone who's ever worked with me, like knows, like I have so many, I'm report dashboard after dashboard, report after report. I'm super into measurement. So I promise you this, that if you get really close to your data every day, like it's not like, oh, let me look at my, those sales dash once a week or once a quarter or once a month, and I'll trust everybody. If you're in it every day, if you're in that report every day, you will see everything you need to see. Really, like even if there's questions you need to answer or whatever, you'll get to those answers, and your confidence level, right, or your room for error will be very low if you're looking every day. If you're not looking every day, you'll miss signals, So I don't know if that's a good answer to your question. That's certainly where my confidence lives in those spreadsheets a lot of the time,
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of the buzzword dark social, just parts of social media that's you just cannot attribute.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we will be able to solve it? It seems like it's an area that's probably it's not going to be solvable, and then we just have to, as marketers, decide, just as a golden rule, you just got to spend this much in branding. Don't ask how to measure this, but just spend 20% or 30% on branding. How do you?
Yeah, I don't think it's that. Yeah, I wouldn't look at it as that structured, or that, like, some brands might need to spend less. Like Airbnb, they stopped doing performance marketing pretty much. Why? Because they have a ubiquitous brand. Everybody's heard of them. Like if you're going to travel and you want to stay somewhere, you're probably going to look on Airbnb, be part of the mix or consideration set. So different brands at different levels of maturity or with different problems to solve. Like some brands might have a ton of awareness, but they have a reputational problem. So they have to invest in certain forms of, formats or stories just to deal with that. Some brands, maybe whatever. My point is, I wouldn't go so hard or fast that it needs to be 20 or 30%. You need to solve the problems in your business.
Right.
I'm just saying that you need to just measure. You need to be obsessed with the measurement. That is my personal, like, where I draw strength from when I'm making decisions about how to spend that 10th or millionth dollar. It's just rooted in, well, based on the trends I've seen and the data, this is what it is my best guess. Now, there's also there's also other analysis you can do. For example, I really encourage brands who can afford to do brand health tracking, meaning don't just look at how many organic visits we had as a proxy for, or how many people search our brand term as a proxy for brand health, but invest in a brand health tracker and look at aided, unaided awareness among Gen Pop, among your target, and see, is it growing over time? If it's growing and you're not seeing then the efficiency in your lower funnel, then there's a question of maybe people aren't really like buying your story, because you're building all this awareness and yet you're not seeing the efficiency that should come with it. So the consideration is maybe a problem. So I think every brand has its own sort of nuanced set of problems to solve.
Yeah. So it seems to me you like to look at things from a very high level, very holistic, and looking at the whole story. Do you use any special tools that help you visualize and also track all your data in a very high level manner so you can pinpoint things easier?
So funny that you say that, because, obviously there's so many incredible tools that are out there now. So many things for data visualization, so many data tools for integrating your data. So many companies are solving data problems.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see the raw data in a grid. And what I like, just my own, and maybe this is just like we're all comfortable with what we're used to, so I just got used to spreadsheets. And so, but one of the main reasons why I like looking at things in a spreadsheet is because then you can manipulate the data yourself, meaning
Totally.
you can export it, you can make your own charts. I can tally things. It's so easy to manipulate when it's all in front of you versus when you're in a dashboard and then you need to you can manipulate it in a dashboard too, but I've used all the tools, whatever, Amplitude and Google Analytics, I've used them all, and I still like a good old fashioned Tableau.
Hot take. I'm
Yes.
curious what your thoughts are on this.
Yes.
So many tools. Seemingly every single day, there's a new marketing tool.
Yeah.
You need this for marketing. You need this for marketing. At the end of the day, it's not the tools that's going to drive success for your marketing campaigns. It's the people.
Amen.
Thoughts?
Totally. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Oh God, it's people are everything. People are, what is, there's all this chatter lately among marketers about whether AI is going to replace creatives.
Oh yeah.
And some people are arguing it's dangerous and it will, and other people are arguing no way because, whatever, because nothing can replace the human creative or whatever. And then what the AI does is just allow us to kind of go even higher, right? Or sort of evolve even further above the AI. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that argument. We'll see.
Yeah, AI is a tricky one because
Totally.
we're getting into unprecedented territories. I'm talking about Karina can make a video and that same video can be translated across 10 different languages, but it looks exactly like Karina speaking in Chinese or Japanese. That is the kind of level, soon we're going to have tools to be able to distinguish between fake Karina and real Karina. And, it's getting crazy. I don't know. Do you follow AI? Are you in groups and watch that stuff?
Yeah, I am following it. I'm not sure I'm in any groups quite yet. I'm in a lot of other groups, but no, I'm looking at the creative that's been made, and some of it is fascinating and
crazy.
Oh, and it's so good. Sometimes you're like, man. But to your point about people, you still need the people to program the machine, obviously, but I think the best work will always come from people, I guess, like humans. I hope that's true.
Yeah.
Only we can be in touch with what we need. And, I think empathy is hard, but machines don't have empathy. And in marketing and product development, for sure, those two crafts, if you don't, what it takes to succeed is empathy. If you're building the next great product, you have to have empathy for your end user. If you're trying to tell a story to your target customer about why that great product fits in their life, you have to have empathy for that customer. You have to understand what kind of story is going to, so now whether some of the execution or some of the process to get there could be done by AI or machines.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But machines don't have empathy. They can't. It's a human condition.
Yeah. Okay. Let's step away from marketing for a little bit. We have about 3 minutes left. Want to talk a little bit about just overall more philosophical things, for example, I don't know, maybe let's say some kind of AI machine took you back and all of a sudden now you're Karina, 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do to restart your career right now? Where would you focus your life if you had to rebuild everything?
Oh my God, that's such a hard question. And by the way, I am still sweating from the last hot sauce thing. I'd like to, say that I don't have regrets, and a lie. If I could go back, there's probably certain things I wouldn't do.
What are those things that you
look, I turned down jobs at companies that are because I wanted to work someplace that I thought was cooler, and then the other place ended up being
Worse.
or just the other place would have made me a gazillionaire. You know what I mean? Like,
What was that company?
oh, I don't want to share, but like, it's one of the big whatever 5 that you can think of.
All right.
You're just kind of like, that's a weird product. Why would I go like get in early at this thing, and then 5 years later you're like, damn, I should have taken that job. So there's a couple of those that, I mean, who knows? Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't. What's the point of looking back? Yeah. Don't, what they say? Don't regret, correct.
And you've done very well.
I just try to correct. What was it what misled me before? How can I, fool me once?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Would you still do marketing if you were 20 years old again? And right now, would you still go into marketing, or would you do more like AI?
No, I'll tell you. I think if there was one thing I probably would have done differently or sooner or kind of augmented with is I might have done a stint in finance.
Hey, that's where I started my career.
I might have done a pit stop in finance.
It helps so much.
Yeah.
Like you just understand numbers so much better.
Yeah. I love math and I love the financial part of marketing very much. I love partnering with finance leaders, with my CFOs, wherever I've worked. I think those relationships are just incredibly important. But part of me every now and then, like, I wish I was like, sometimes like, I wish I had I know if I had done a couple of years of finance, I'd be able to get to the answer faster. Sometimes I really crave that for myself. It feels like maybe I would have done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe investment banking for a minute or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably would have been like me. You would have left after a year. I was in iBanking for a year and then, nope, sorry. I need to be more creative.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure I wouldn't have lasted long.
But it was great. It was such a good experience, right? Like I understand numbers a lot better because of that. And that's why they're saying another hot take, CRO is more important than CMO. Hot take that I hear all the time, because not only are they marketers, they think about the numbers and they're focused on the revenues.
Yeah. I certainly am seeing a trend in marketing where people are moving from being called CMOs to CCOs, chief commercial officers. And that's an opportunity to signal to the market that the marketing organization is charged with commercial outcomes and even brand as a service to revenue in that instance. And I've seen that a lot lately. I think there was somebody just did that. Was it Procter & Gamble? There was a major Fortune 500 who a few years ago changed the title of the CMO role to something like Chief Commercial and Digital Officer. Because
I know Lululemon doesn't have a CMO. They have Chief Brand Officer or something. Like it's not marketing, it's brand.
I think every we talked about like how do you invest, how much do you spend here or there. I think the answer to like what kind of marketing organization do you have, what kind of CMO or CBO or CCO do you have, and the answer is ultimately what does the company need from you, what kind of marketer does the company need. In the case of Lulu, that brand there's so much community in that, there's certain energy of philosophy, spirit. It's a lifestyle brand, Lulu. Yeah. It's not an apparel brand, it's a lifestyle brand. So the chief brand officer makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I don't know that from being inside that company. I just externally, that's what I've observed.
A lot of companies are investing in community this year.
Yeah.
Like, community and partnership seems to have replaced all the spend, like you talked about, all the performance marketing spend. it's expensive now to do paid marketing, right? Paid ads, PPC, and all that is expensive. Community, community, and partnerships, those are real connections, and a lot of companies are investing in that. What are you seeing? Is that happening at P.volve or maybe other organizations that you're working at?
Yeah, I mean, I think the community has been important since the rise of social media, certainly in a lot of ways. I mean, I think it was perhaps important to many brands prior to social, but social sort of made the sort of community an actual function inside of many marketing organizations.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, I think there's a lot of, maybe it's more important now because a lot of brands are seeing how much value having a community around your brand can impact your bottom line. For example, word of mouth, not a new concept. Mouth has sold products for whatever. Since the big birth of marketing, one of the challenges is how do I get people to talk about this thing so I don't have to pay for every, how do I weaponize my customers to be my, my ads versus just paying for every ad that I run. And I think what you see, the reason it's become so important now, and people talk about community development, is because there's actually like a legitimate shift in how consumers make purchase decisions. It used to be that, a story from a journalist or seeing a commercial on TV with a celebrity, right? It used to be that those types of communications had a lot of influence. Now, those communications carry less influence than social.
If any influence at all.
That's right. Well, depending on the generation, but younger generations certainly.
Oh yeah.
Are more influenced by influencers and communities, right? Conversations, whether it's on Reddit or on TikTok or on Insta, wherever you gather. Those communities carry more sway now than a lot of those traditional formats. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing the shift in investment strategy where some brands are saying, well, maybe I need to spend less on print, television, out-of-home, radio, podcasting, and more on community development, influence, etc. So that's why I think it's just because the importance of that. When someone is a real legitimate user and fan of your product, they're going to be better influencers, right? They are going to produce better content. They are going to connect with their audience and deliver your message in a better way than if they're faking it anyway.
And then why you talk about your product at the dinner table or, whereas if it's just professional, after the post is done, they're not going to talk about you anymore.
100%. But, I think that that's super interesting. When as marketers, one of the things, it's particularly like an e-commerce, but across the board, we talk a lot about the path to purchase, right? What is the journey a customer takes from the point that they become aware of your brand to the point that they buy, all the way through to loyalty, right? Yeah, but the big shift that we've seen over the last decade certainly is on that path to purchase, in the journey from becoming aware of a brand to deciding to spend money with that brand. Social now it used to be that you would Google it, then you go to their website. Increasingly, people are going to social. It doesn't mean they're not Googling, but they are going to social and they're looking for conversations. And so I also want to say that it's not just about finding the right influencer. If you are not treating your customer well, if you don't have good NPS, good member experience, if you are not delivering on your promise, even if an influencer is saying you're the holy grail, a customer is going to spot anyway.
Yep.
That other people are like, wait, this thing sucked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you will see that breakage in your path to purchase, that the customer, that you got their attention, then they migrated to social to see, is this legit? And then it's just,
I like this world. As a marketer, I like this world. You have to be real. Like going back to good products, not just good products. You got to be a good company. You have to provide good customer service. You got to be good to your employees. You just got to be good. Otherwise, why are we letting bad companies rise to the top? It's not good for society. So I think overall, this is great.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I mean, anytime you give voice to the people, voice to the customer, a lot of companies have something called voice of the customer surveys, right? Where they elevate what customers are saying about them inside their organization. So you never remember, we talked a little bit about how small companies, each of those customer relationships are really, really precious. They know the name.
Ring the bell. Yeah.
They ring the bell, and the bigger you get, the more disassociated you could be. So that's why this sort of voice of the customer kind of report is always really valuable. Is you can't forget. I always say, like, the customer has all the power.
Mm-hmm.
They could choose to spend with you. They could choose to spend with someone else. They could choose to go on social media and say that you suck. They could go on Yelp and leave you a 1-star review. They could go on Amazon and leave a 1-star review. I read reviews. I don't know about you. That's part of community. Community isn't just Insta.
No.
Community is also your reviews. If you're selling on Amazon and you have a bunch of 1-2-star reviews, people saying this thing sucks, they said it was super hot and it showed up and it's like, just tastes like vinegar.
Actually, let's try that one more time. See if it's hot.
You know?
Last one before.
Okay, yeah. So I'll go a little extra for you this time.
Okay, I'm full.
I'm not sweating anymore. So I
got tissue.
Yeah, I'm making this one really goopy. Oh.
Ooh, nice. Okay. Right. This is a full spoon. This was so much fun, Karina. This is fantastic. I think we're a little bit over, so we're probably gonna call it. Before we jump out, get some water. Before we jump out, definitely we need a round 2 for when you are fully with P.volve. Then you can start talking about some of the P.volve stuff. We'll get more into things that you're doing right now at the moment. Before we jump out, anything else you want to say to the audience of marketers? Or
well, first of all, I want to thank you for your generosity, for the time, for giving me an opportunity to talk about things that I love to talk about. I encourage everybody to follow you because you talk to so many executives and particularly CMOs who I love, and so I just want to say that, like, I love some of your content. Some of I love all of your content, but there's some folks that you've had on or that I think are just really worth listening to. Really innovative CMOs. So anyway, so thank you for the time and the platform, and I hope you will have me back one day, and we'll talk all about I'll eat hot sauce and I'll do a workout for you.
Done. Should we include hot sauce at all the P.volve things? Like it comes.
Yeah. Where it's like gift with purchase will drop in the box.
P.volve, the P.volve and the P sauce.
The sweat up. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get you back before the end of the year for sure. Because you're just a few months in. But thank you so much for jumping on. Everyone that's listening, please feel free to reach out to Karina or find her on LinkedIn, follow her. Karina, until next time, take care, and we'll talk very soon.
That's that. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you want to learn more about marketing, just hit that subscribe button and check out all the other videos we have with CEOs, CMOs, and founders. We post weekly here, so this way you won't miss any future episodes. Also, you can leave me a comment down below on what you think about this episode, and also what else I can do or ask to make the show more fun for you. See you later.